and welcome to Module 5 of the SBH Teaching Kitchen's online cooking series. My name is Emily, and in today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to make our black bean soup. This black bean soup is going to be really flavorful and delicious from all the wonderful seasonings and flavorings that we're adding to our soup, but it's also going to be very filling and satisfying from the beans that we're adding. Beans are going to be a great source of protein in our dish, but they're also going to have fiber and complex carbohydrates. And those are three things that we need in order to feel full and satisfied. So not only is this dish delicious and filling and satisfying, but it's also going to be very inexpensive for us to make. So a lot of these ingredients are things that many of us already have on hand, such as the seasonings that we'll be adding. And other things are going to be very inexpensive when we're buying them from the grocery store. So our beans here that we're adding are a very inexpensive form of protein. We're also going to be adding some onions, carrots, and celery. And my trick for these is to chop all of these things up ahead of time whenever you can find those items on sale and store them in the freezer. That way you have veggies ready to go anytime you want to make a soup or a stew, and I don't even have to bust out the cutting board. We're also going to add some vegetable stock, and this is homemade vegetable stock, so you don't always have to buy it from the grocery store. We can actually use those onions, carrots, and celery, simmer them in some water for a few hours, and make really delicious vegetable stock. To add an extra bright pop of flavor to our soup, at the end of cooking we're going to add some cilantro and the juice from one lime, and that's really just going to tie all of those flavors together. So let's go ahead and get started. Start by heating a medium to large size pot over medium-high heat, and then add 1 tablespoon of oil. Once your oil is hot, you can add up your chopped vegetables. As I mentioned before, I already chopped up all of these vegetables. It's just a great way to save time for future meals. Here we have 1 yellow onion, 2 ribs of celery, and 1 small carrot. Give those veggies a stir and cook until they're soft, about 7 to 10 minutes. We want to allow these vegetables to brown, and we want any excess moisture to evaporate out of the vegetables. This will help to concentrate their flavor and give us a more flavorful soup. Make sure to give the vegetables a stir every so often. You don't need to stand over the pot and constantly stir it. That actually makes it take longer for the veggies to cook. Every minute or so should be fine. Once the vegetables are soft and beginning to brown, and there's no liquid at the bottom of the pan, you can go ahead and add your garlic and seasonings. Here we are going to add 3 cloves of minced garlic. For our seasonings, we are going to use a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of oregano, a half teaspoon of chili powder, and 1 tablespoon of ground cumin. Give everything a stir and saute until everything is fragrant and you can smell the garlic and spices. This will take only about 30 seconds to a minute. Next, you can pour in the broth, give that a stir, and then add the beans. We're going to add 2 15-ounce cans of black beans, or you can just add 1 30-ounce can of beans. I'm using low sodium beans here because it puts me in more control of how much sodium is in my dish, especially because we are not draining the liquid out of the beans, and the liquid is where most of that salt tends to be. If you can't find low sodium beans, you may want to reduce how much extra salt you are using in the soup. Give everything a stir and then bring the soup up to a boil. Once your soup is boiling, you can reduce the heat to low and simmer the soup for 20 minutes. This will allow for the flavors to develop and for the beans to get very soft. Once your soup is done simmering, taste it and adjust any seasonings as needed. You can serve the soup as is if you like a chunkier soup, or if you would like it to be a little bit thicker, you can puree some or all of the soup. You can do this in a blender, or you can use a stick blender like I'm using here. I'm just going to pulse the soup a few times to blend about half of it. At the end of cooking, you can add a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro. This is about half a bunch of cilantro, and the juice from 1 lime. A serving size for this soup is going to be 1½ cups. If you would like, you could serve this with some toppings such as a tablespoon of plain yogurt or sour cream. You could also top this with some additional cilantro leaves or some diced avocado. Thank you for joining us for Module 5 of the SBH Teaching Kitchen's online cooking series. This has been our recipe for black bean soup, and we'll see you again for the next one.